Hello and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul, and in today's episode we are taking a look back at Aston Villa's 1-0 win over Manchester City this past weekend. A brilliant strike from Matty Cash secured all 3 points for us in a deserved victory as our recovery in the Premier League continues. As with every game, I'll be discussing my 5 key talking points as we have a deeper dive into the Man City game. But first, let's have a listen to Unai Emery and his thoughts on our win as he spoke to Villa TV after the game.
Very proud of how the supporters transmit us their energy, positive, always helping us, and the play they were feeling, wow, like our fortress and like our power to show after this positive energy, their skills, their wishes, their commitment to tactically to do everything we planned. And against one thing like Manchester City, we needed tactically, we needed their wishes, we needed their commitment, their effort, and of course the supporters, how they helped us here creating this atmosphere, so positive to help and to be together here as a feeling to defend our fortress strongly like we did. Day 9, we achieved 15 points today with those 3 points. Of course, getting balance. We started support, but the most important how the players are reacting, are progressing, and we are feeling as well strong. And through it, we are getting points, and of course, recovering the position on the table, getting balance, but still work to do, of course, and as well try to set some players as well getting better. And this is the next challenges we will have with the team, with the players, and of course with the next challenges playing against Liverpool.
That was Unai Emery speaking to Villa TV after our 1-0 win over Manchester City this past weekend. So on to my 5 key talking points then, and we'll start with the Villa defensive quartet that reiterated that they may well be the best combination that Emery has at his disposal. Now Villa came under a lot of pressure in the early stages on Sunday. I thought Man City dominated possession and probed for a breakthrough for the first 20 minutes or so, but I was really impressed with how well we defended. It took a lot of focus, discipline and organisation to stay so defensively sound, and I thought it re-emphasised how good the Pau Torres-Ezri Konsa partnership is, but also just how solid we look with that back four as a whole with Matty Cash and Luca Dean either side of them. Now personally, I do like the energy, speed and athleticism that Ian Maatsen brings to the team when he's involved, and I feel there are games where we need the physicality and presence in the box from Tyrone Mings. But we've seen how effective we are with the high line and just generally executing a defensive plan with Cash, Konsa, Pau and Dean, whether that's playing the offside trap, winning individual duels or collectively working together to not only defend well, but then to show the composure at the back to play our way out of a press. And so I was really impressed with how that quartet played in this win. Ezri Konsa is just a top-class defender. Matty Cash will come to in more detail shortly. And Luca Dean is a solid, reliable option at left-back. Pau Torres, I think, has made a massive difference since he's come back into the team over the past month or so. We know how good he is with the composure and the technical ability in possession, but I think he's physically standing up to challenges better, and he's winning individual duels more effectively now as well. So I think his all-round game is coming to the fore, and he's making a massive difference in that back four. So as I say, speaking of Matty Cash, he is the subject of my second key talking point from this game as he continues to impress. And we've obviously all now seen the news that he signed a new contract at Villa to keep him with us until 2029. As previously discussed with Cash on previous podcasts and in newsletters, I don't feel he's always convinced the entire Villa fan base. I think you can argue that given the signings of Nedeljkovic and Garcia in recent years as well, perhaps Emery and Villa have been looking for a long-term replacement at times too, with an openness to possibly moving on Cash. I think the thing that perhaps irks a lot of people is that burst forward that he has when he threatens to be a more of an attacking dynamic player, but then he'll always sort of check back, play a safe pass back into Konsa or into midfield, and it sort of brings an end to what could have been a promising attack moving forward. That seems to be more of an instruction and a key sort of the key elements of the role that Emery wants him to play for him. So I don't know whether that should be too much of a criticism of Cash specifically, but I think he's now arguably playing his best and most consistent football for Villa right now since he joined us in 2020. Not only with his goals, as he obviously scored another fantastic goal this past weekend, but I think he's showing a high level of concentration, discipline and tenacity defensively as he put in a proper shift against Man City this weekend. I think you can see his touch and his strike for our winner were excellent, But he was really tested defensively again in this one for the first half. And then when Doku came on, Cash shut down that threat down that side so many times with cutting out crosses. And I thought he'd done really well in that game. So congrats to Cashy for a deserved reward in the form of a new contract. The challenge for him now, moving forward, is obviously to stay healthy. Injuries have been a problem for him in the past. So stay healthy, maintain this level of form, and hopefully continue to build on it and really, really cement his place, not only in the team now, which he already is, he's a pillar of this team, but to sort of answer that long-term question as well, and be the right back at Villa for many more years to come. My third point is on Amadou Onana and Boubacar Kamara putting in a stellar performance in our midfield pivot. We are, of course, missing the influence of Yuri Tielemans at the minute, and the sooner that he's back, the better, because he is such a positive influence and makes a massive impact for us in both phases of the game. However, I think Onana and Kamara were perfect for this particular game with the way that they shielded the back line, but then also showed the composure and the ability to drive forward from deep to get us on the attack as well in transition. Onana was just everywhere, it seemed. I lost count of the number of times he made key interventions and clearances from the box and around the box. So I felt that midfield duo deserved praise for their contribution to our clean sheet and the overall influence in the game to get the win. As I say, the first 20 minutes or so, Man City had dominated possession. They were probing, they were really threatening to find the breakthrough. But the defensive structure and shield that the defence, the back four, and that those two sitting in front of them provided with us, I thought that was huge to get through that difficult period. And then as we sort of gradually grew into the game, got a foothold and started wrestling back a bit of control from City, I thought Onana and Kamara were massive in that process. So hats off to them as well. I thought they were excellent on Sunday. On to my fourth point, and that's Emiliano Buendia's injury concern. Now, the Villa playmaker was forced off after just 29 minutes on Sunday as he looked in serious discomfort as he clutched his ankle before being helped down the tunnel. Putting his penalty miss last week aside, as that was obviously a low point for him, it shouldn't overshadow what has been a really positive start for the season for him. I think he's grabbed this second opportunity, this second chance with us, and he's been decisive with his goals. He had an assist before he went off on Sunday. And generally speaking, just that ability to play that number 10 role in the way that Emery wants him to play it. He's very important tactically to how the Villa boss wants us to play. So I think he's had a really positive impact on us throughout the start of this season, even through our low period, but particularly as we've started to find form. The last thing that the team needs, but also what he needs now, is an injury setback to disrupt that rhythm and momentum that he's been building. It's hoped that the injury isn't serious enough to sort of sideline him for long, but we'll have to wait until later this week, perhaps until Emery speaks at his pre-match press conference ahead of the Liverpool game to find out more. But fingers crossed, Buendia hasn't suffered a serious injury. Finally, my fifth point is our overall recovery. So I think we were in a really terrible place not too long ago. Aside from the concerning results, I felt as though something just wasn't right with our performances, and that something might potentially even be broken given how far off we were from our usual levels. The defeat last week against Go Ahead Eagles was a reminder that things can still go wrong if we're not fully at it. But this win over Man City was another indication for me that we're rebuilding trust and belief internally within the squad, but also with the supporters, that we're back on the right track. Now, I do tend to speak a lot about identity, character, and the Emery way a lot, as I feel as though if we lose those key elements, that can spell trouble as things become frenetic, disjointed, and even doing the basics become a challenge. We've seen Villa struggle with those issues as results have sort of dipped and we've lost our way a little bit. When we don't have that control in games, when we're not playing the way that Emery wants us to play, things can collapse. So when we have that identity and we play the way we want to play, it makes a massive difference. What I've seen in our last 4 Premier League games, though, shows that we're rediscovering what has made us so effective under Emery, and hopefully that will continue with another tough assignment when we head to Anfield to face Liverpool on Saturday night. We know how difficult that game's going to be, but as I say, when we're playing with that belief, that confidence in what we're trying to do, whether it's playing out from the back, whether it's looking for passing lanes through the centre, all those key elements, those key sort of aspects of what makes us so effective under Emery, when we have the confidence in doing those things rather than getting away from the game plan, getting away from our identity, that's when I think we start to really struggle and things just look a bit of a mess. So hopefully now with this win, that sort of re-emphasises and re-establishes a bit more of our confidence in what we're doing. So that's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. A big thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Please subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. And as I always say at the end of these podcast episodes, I really hope to build a great community of Villa fans here and develop and grow the pod over time into covering more content and getting you more involved as the listenership grows. So give the episode a like or leave a review if you've enjoyed it. Sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack for ad-free Villa news, opinions and analysis delivered directly to you. And with a paid subscription, you can get all sorts of bonus content as well. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So it was a disappointing loss at Go Ahead Eagles given the position we were in that game, but particularly given the winning run that we were on. It threatened to disrupt that rhythm and that momentum that we had, but fortunately, Villa bounced back this past weekend with a superb win over Manchester City to get back on track. As I said earlier, it's Liverpool away next, and while we know how difficult that fixture is, regardless of their current form and struggles, there's no reason why we can't head up to Merseyside with confidence and belief in ourselves, coming home with a positive result. So I'll be back with a pod after the game this weekend, but until then, up the Villa.